Welcome everyone to the Kent City Council workshop. Today is Tuesday, April 6th, 2021. This is a remote meeting due to the COVID-19 restrictions and by order of the governor. So welcome to anyone that is joining us this evening on Kent TV 21, the Facebook City of Kent page, the YouTube Kent TV 21 channel, and then anyone that is calling in to listen. We will go ahead and get started with our two items today, and we're going to switch them around. So we are going to start with the second item, which is the King County Assessor update. So I'd like to welcome King County Assessor John Wilson. Welcome.
Good evening. Well, thank you all for inviting me. It's great to at least virtually see some of you, even if I can't get down to Kent to see you all face to face, but hopefully sometime here in the next few months, I will be able to. I was thrilled this weekend that I got my second COVID vaccination. So the county needs to be where I'll be out and about. But I want to give a special shout out to Dana Ralph and to Councilman Trauner and all of you for your interest in what we're doing in the assessor's office. What I'd like to do is run you through a quick little slide deck of what's happening with us, what COVID has meant to us, and what it has meant to you. So if we can, let's see if we can share desktops here and see if that'll work. Now, are you able to see my presentation screen?
It looks great.
Good enough. So what I thought we'd talk about is a little bit about COVID and its impacts on property values on both the residential and commercial side. As you mentioned, you know, a year ago, the governor issued his stay at home, stay safe. And we saw it have some immediate effects in certain sectors, the hospitality sector, hotels, cruise ships, the convention center, sporting events, games without fans in the seats, and restaurants, especially those that depended upon dine-in service, and then just general brick and mortar retail. You know, and for example, in Seattle, it made downtown Seattle into a virtual ghost town. And in fact, one hotel during the initial stage of the order had only 8 guests for its 1,200 rooms. And hotels in downtown Seattle, at least, have been slow to come back. I think elsewhere in communities like Kent and that, they may have come back a little bit quicker than some because of activity in that. But this has become an all too familiar sign of our times. And we know that it's meant that thousands of people have lost their jobs, either temporarily or sadly, in some cases, permanently. And it's created a great problem for both our residents and for elected officials. Now, generally in the residential sector, the impacts have been relatively small. While home inventory has been fairly tight this last year, prices have been stable or either actually trending upward. And certainly South King County has been one of the hot real estate markets once again because of the affordability. And really, it's a wonderful part of the county. I was just down your way a couple weeks ago, and I'm always impressed by what it's like down there. I wish I get down there more often. But what it's meant is our operations about a year ago suddenly went virtual. And so we've been working from home or remotely for the better part of the last year. And it's had some bumps, but we've done pretty well. But one of the things we were trying to push, and one of the things we still want to make Kent residents aware of, is there is property tax relief available for you through the new revised and expanded King County senior exemption system. It is a statewide law that we got changed to help King County residents. And what it means is if you're a senior, disabled, or a disabled vet, there are 3 criteria that you need to meet. You have to be the owner occupant of the home, age 61 and older, or qualify under the Social Security Administration or the VA administration as disabled, and have a household income of now $58,423 or less. Now, that's nearly a 50% increase from what the previous economic threshold had been. It had been a statewide number of $40,000. Didn't matter whether you lived here in King County or Wahkiakum County or Skamania, it was 40 grand. And that meant a lot of people couldn't get in. Now, if you'd like to find out more about the program, you can call this number, 206-296-3920. And as they say on TV these days, operators are standing by, although not just as I'm speaking. So if you'll call tomorrow morning, that would be appreciated. But here's what that can mean. Depending upon what the exemption is, on a typical home, a median price home in King County, which is around $600,000 these days, a full exemption will net you an annual savings of more than $4,300. Partial will be $3,400, almost $3,500. And even the standard deduction, if your income is right up against that 58,000 number, that's $2,600 a year off your property tax bill. That's a huge difference for a lot of people. And we know that for a lot of seniors in communities like Kent and else throughout the county, it can make the difference of whether or not you can stay in that home or you find yourself having to look at possibly selling it. Now, so what's up with county taxes this year? As you know, we mail out bills in mid-February. I have never figured out, quite frankly, whose sick idea of government it was that we are required to send property tax bills out on Valentine's Day. But it is somebody's dark, dark sense of humor, but we abide by state law anyway. And this year, the bills we sent out overall in the county were up about 4.303%, just a little over 4%. Total King County property tax revenues were up $256 million on a total property tax revenue of $6.6 billion. Now that's for King County, but it's also for schools, it's for the city of Kent, it's for a variety of functions. What happened in Kent? Your taxes went up about 3.2%. And that increase averaged about $143 over your 2020 property tax bill. There were a couple reasons for it. One was enhanced school levies. That still remains a major part of what drives increased property taxes in most communities. And there was a bond issue countywide to enhance the seismic capabilities in that of Harborview Medical Center. Clearly our region's #1 trauma center and vital in case of some kind of disaster. Now, so where do your property taxes go? Well, let's take a quick look at this. It'll show you that roughly 57% of your property taxes go for K-12 education. You can see the three areas, the blue, orange, and green parts of the circle that show you how K-12 is the lion's share of our property taxes. You can see Sound Transit gets about 2%. We in King County, and not just the assessor's office, by the way, but King County as an entity gets about 17%. The port gets a little bit. Cities like Kent and that get about 15%, fire districts, others, and then the library system and that. So that's where your property tax dollar goes. King County, by the way, pays about 47% of the state's total property tax revenues each year. So we are the lion's share of property tax revenues for the state of Washington. Now, residential values continue up. As I mentioned, strong demand, scarce inventory, natural economic dynamics. What we're seeing again this year even is double-digit increases in some parts of the county and likely probably double-digit increases in South King County, again, because of the desirability of people to move into housing that is more affordable and is outside the city of Seattle these days. On the commercial side, it's a hot mess. It varies. As I mentioned, hotels have seen occupancy down 80 to 85% compared to the previous year and have been slow coming back. Thousands of businesses have found, or certainly hundreds of businesses have found themselves either shuttered and driven out of business or dramatically curtailed in the amount of operating time or capability that they have. Restaurants, for example, that are now operating at about 50%, but were operating at 25% or had no ability to run if they didn't have the ability to do takeout and that. What we're studying right now and trying to keep a close eye on is how do those businesses come back and how does that vary across the county? Because we think some parts of the county will come back faster than others, and some parts of the county will probably lag. Sadly, one of the things I think is going to be a reality is I think downtown Seattle is going to be one of the lagging areas to come back, in part because of how deep the recession was, how hard COVID hit, and then, frankly, a summer of unrest that has meant much of downtown Seattle these days looks sort of like the set from a bad dystopian Hollywood movie destined to go directly to Netflix. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much for sharing this information. Any questions from any of the council members? And I just have one quick question, just to verify. You said that of the property taxes that go to the state, 47% come from King County. So we're a huge portion of what.
Yeah, the council member, the second closest county is Snohomish County at about 22%.
Wow.
So you can see how dependent the state is on property taxes from King County. That's why one of the things that we're actually looking at, and I'm trying to talk to other assessors around the state about, is the possibility of a homestead exemption. 45 other states have such an exemption where it gives owner occupants, regardless of income, some break on their property taxes. And we think that would be helpful, especially in King County, for lower income and working income families that are homeowners in our communities.
And have you noticed any decline in the ability for some residents to pay their property taxes due to people being out of work, or?
We've seen some increase in that, fortunately not dramatically so. And also the King County Treasury Office, which is separate from us, but we work hand in glove with, has been very good about extending payment plans and that to give people more time to pay their property taxes and that. But yeah, it's very clear that for some homeowners, that big bill twice a year just is one bill too much, and that. So we try to work with them. You know, we're trying our level best to avoid situations where people fall either seriously in arrears. There is such a thing, as you probably know, as a property tax lien foreclosure if you're more than 3 years behind on your property taxes. You know, I literally a couple weeks ago had a woman in tears on the phone with me because she was behind, and we helped her get set up on a payment plan and got her squared away. And I got a very nice, a very touching note from her the other day that she could breathe again and she could stay in her home. And that's in part what we're all about. I know that that's what all of you in the city of Kent are about too, is serving your constituents.
Great story. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions or comments? All right. Well, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Y'all take care.
Yeah, thank you. Take care.
Bye.
All right. We are going to move on to the next item on the agenda, and that is the 2021 Public Works Capital Project Update.
Well, thank you, Council President Troutner. I appreciate you guys giving me a little bit of time to share about our projects tonight. So I'm Eric Connor. I'm the Construction Engineering Manager for the City of Kent Public Works Department. Construction engineering staff are responsible for the management and administration for City of Kent capital improvement construction projects, in addition to inspection of all right-of-way and City of Kent-owned infrastructure on projects permitted by our Economic and Community Development Department. Tonight, I'm here to talk about some of the City of Kent capital projects and talk about some of the significant private development projects. Some of the projects have been completed over the past year. Some are ongoing and some are on the way. I'll first talk about City of Kent capital improvement construction projects. Capital improvement construction projects are engineered by staff from design, environmental, transportation, operations, in addition to projects that are contracted out to various consultants for their design work. Outside of a few that we contract out to consultants, our construction projects are looked after by 7 members of the construction engineering team. Those members are Paul Keeney, Jason Berry, Phil McConnell, Jason Bryant, Brian Shields, Alan Chow, and Mazam Ghanem. These guys are often called inspectors, but in the private industry, they would be identified as resident engineers. They were responsible for the administration of the contracts, quality control, financial management, change orders, communication. And yes, they do inspection too. And they are really the overall liaisons in the middle of everything that takes place in the projects. These guys look after everything that is given to them, from $10,000 minor repairs to infrastructure to projects that have values exceeding over $30 million. Before we get too far into kind of the tour of jobs that I have for you guys, I wanted to make a quick note to thank the guys in the Kent Media team for several of the aerial photos you'll see in this presentation. So thank you to Alex, Steve, and Josh. I really enjoy getting the images from these guys. I'm sure you've all seen a lot of them, but they do a great job, and I know my staff enjoys working with them. So moving on to the projects. 224th, you had seen several presentations that Jason Bryant has done in Public Works Committee. Since he's last presented, we've had the ribbon cutting. The bridge has been open to traffic, and the finishing touches have been completed in both phase 1 and 2. There we go, Kim. Here are a couple images of South 218th Street that were completely rebuilt and regraded in phase 2 of the project. We're on the next slide. There we go. Thank you. New sewer main, water main, storm piping, storm detention, retaining walls, and a new bridge over Garrison Creek were all constructed as part of the widening and revised alignment of 88th Avenue South and South 218th Street. There, we're next one. One of the last orders of business as part of phase 2 was the final construction of the site's permanent stormwater detention pond system. This work had to wait for the dry and warm weather of the summer months of 2020. The pond was excavated and shaped, then lined with layers of sand, fabric, more sand, impermeable liner, another layer of sand, and a high visibility layer, and then finally the topsoil. And you can see the finished product out there, the bottom right corner. That was a fairly recent photo from this spring. So moving on to our next really big project, South 228th. South 228th Avenue UPRR grade separation project. Jason Berry presented to the Public Works Committee while phase 4 was nearing completion. Since then, phase 5 has taken over, completed some below-grade stormwater detention facilities, completion of fills required to complete the ramps to the new grades on both sides of 228th, ramps down to 6th Avenue, and then several private business accesses and driveways, all while permitting full vehicle access to businesses and businesses and their employees, vehicle traffic, truck traffic, you name it. The guys have had to work around all that. This is not a small feat. Fill material consisted of geofoam, lightweight fill, and imported aggregates supported by various types of mechanically stabilized earth MSC retaining walls. You can see in the photos the white geofoam material that was placed that helps prevent a settlement in the future and causing issues to the below ground infrastructure. Okay, next page, Kim. As the earthwork was ongoing, the bridge construction was the project's critical path work. Concrete bridge piers were constructed. The 3 photos here show the bridge column rebar cages that are being formed in preparation for concrete placement. Cross beams that are formed for the bridging the 3 columns together, and then the completed structures ready for girder placement. Thank you. Girder placement was a 4-day process for this bridge. Crews faced the challenges of working around the Union Pacific Railroad with no interruptions to the railroad and working below a major high voltage power transmission lines. Photos include the very first girder set in progress on day 1. You can see the 2 cranes working together in those photos to complete the girder sets. That's a very complicated, dangerous, and very sophisticated operation. Next page, thank you. Here's the final girder set. The final girder setting into place on day 4 with a couple different angles to look at it. That was the 24 of 24 girders. The last photos of one of the 2 spans with all the girders in place. Okay, after completion of the girder set, it is time for the bridge deck. Thousands of pounds of rebar are placed on a rail system that is set up for the machine you see in the photos. That machine's called a bidwell. As concrete is placed, the machine works the concrete and precisely establishes the finish grade. And here's a look at the concrete crew and the bid wheel in action on the deck pour day. Once cured, diaphragm pours at each of the, excuse me. Once completed, diaphragm pours at each pier tie the girders together and the decking together. Approach slabs are also poured to connect the finished bridge deck to the ramps constructed out of aggregate fill and the MSC retaining walls. After the bridge deck pour, then structural crews turn their focus to the moment slabs and barriers in order to finish all the walls and bridge. Concrete roadway paving also proceeded. Concrete paving was especially challenging with traffic management, just like the earthwork fill was. Traffic routes through the zone were rerouted about every 5 days on average. So currently we have a project that is very near completion. Final installation of the illumination system is ongoing. Work in private parking lots adjacent to the building is being completed. Castings are being raised and final cleanup is taking place in preparation for the ribbon cutting next Thursday. The bridge will be open to traffic following the ribbon cutting. The two photos that are up right now, the original, the one on the left is a simulation that was produced back in 2017. The one on the right is one that was taken just several weeks ago. They're at different directions of the project, but we thought it was pretty cool how similar the rendering and the final product looked at the end of the day. Okay, Upper Mill Creek Dam is a multi-season project that was completed in 2020. The dam face was reconstructed and raised 4 feet with a new overflow spillway, controls, and discharge. In addition, a new fish ladder was constructed with diversion structures and high flow bypass. The high flow bypass takes water into the reservoir from Mill Creek during high flow events. That bypass shows up kind of on the left-hand side of the right-hand photo. You can see it running through the trees there behind the houses. We're very excited to see the completion of this project. Now that it's operating, we have one more tool to help control stream flows during storm events that produce high flows and hopefully help with flooding in future events. On this slide, there's a couple of features constructed on the dam face. And then the next side shows the diversion structure that's kind of at the back side of the operation. You can't see it in the photo, but there's a fish ladder in there and a screen, and that when the flows increase by a depth of 3 to 4 feet, which we control, the water is diverted down the channel. You can see heading off there, and then it starts filling up the reservoir. Okay, one of our other big highlight projects this year was 76th Avenue improvements. This was a fast-paced, hard-charging project from day one. The contractor was challenged with raising the grade of 76th Avenue about 4 feet while allowing truck and vehicle access to all adjacent businesses. This was achieved by closing the road to northbound traffic and making it a one-way road southbound. One-way traffic was first routed to the east side of 76, while the fill was being placed on the west side, followed by construction of all new storm, water main, curb and gutter, and sidewalk and concrete paving. Once that concrete was cured, traffic was diverted onto the new roadway on the west side, and the process was repeated on the east side. So here's a photo of the concrete placement in the future northbound lane while traffic is running southbound on the original asphalt. Here's one more photo of the project in progress along with the finished project. Future phases of work on 76th Avenue are currently being planned or are in design. The road raising will continue north of this project to 72nd Avenue and also to the south of this project with the addition of multiple culvert replacements to enhance flow in Mill Creek.
Councilmember Thomas, do you have a question about this?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. So am I to understand then that both northbound and southbound have been raised to the same height?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yep, you're welcome. Okay, now we're on to 4th and Willis Roundabout. This is one of my favorite projects that we did this year. The final product is a wonderful gateway to the city that enhances traffic flow, improves safety, and I really think it looks great. What you see in the above photo of the job site is the completion of the one of first order of business. A temporary rotary was constructed to allow continuous traffic flow movement around the project, while the majority of the work was constructed inside the rotary. We were fortunate to have so much space to work with at this location. Once the rotary was established, utilities were installed and the grade was raised in the middle of the old intersection. We raised it about 1.5 feet from what was originally out there. With the new established grade and all the new storm pipe and water main relocations and dry utility conduit in place, the concrete flatwork could proceed. With many different colors, shapes, textures, the concrete work was a very integral part of the finished product. It adds both beauty and functionality to the project. Once the concrete flatwork is completed inside the temporary rotary configuration, then we finally get to pave. As you can tell, this took place in August when the region had some unfortunate air quality issues, but the guys persevered through it. Completion of the paving allowed the contractor to reroute traffic in a 1-lane capacity in the final configuration and start work on more of the outside elements where traffic was driving on the temporary rotary configuration. This is also the point where the contractor was able to dedicate a staff to the urban design elements in the center of the roundabout. Going to do one more quick pause. I want to give a shout out to the City of Kent survey staff. With all the work going on in multiple projects throughout the city, they virtually dedicated a crew to this project full-time for an extended period. This project had more intricate detail and required precision than any project that I've seen since starting here in 2014. But we really appreciated their dedication and quality of work. The urban design elements in the roundabout center island are an example of their work. Please take note of all the different radiuses and points that had to be laid out for this construction. That is not easy stuff. I like this photo over the top of the center item. Both of these photos were taken after the final overlay paving and prior to striping while the asphalt was in its curing period. Traffic movement was maintained in a 1-lane configuration during this phase. Here's a photo of the artwork going in place in the center island as part of the urban design elements. After many months of fabrication and preparations, they went into place very quickly without any complications. But the other photo was taken during the snow event. I believe it was in February by some staff from operations. Ultimately, that center art feature is going to have blast lighting that's going to be lighting up from the ground inside that artwork, and it's really going to make that Kent logo pop in there. I can't wait for that to get turned on. That should be, I believe they got materials right now, so hopefully it's on by the end of the week. However, it won't make the ribbon cutting that's scheduled for tomorrow, unfortunately. Then the next slide, this is the nearly finished final product with the channelization and most of the finished features in place. This is another job where I slipped in a rendering of the project in the early stages of design. You can see the vision from the early on design staff. It came out pretty close to what they were expecting. Okay, some of the other projects, Green River Natural Resources Area pump station. We talked about Upper Mill Creek Dam and how it will benefit the city during storm events. This pump station is another one of those projects. It'll add control to the stormwater levels in GRNRA by pumping directly to the Green River. In this project, we constructed a new maintenance building for the use by the city's storm staff. While the building is nice, run the next one, Kim. It gives the guys in operation some additional space. This project is really about the pumps. This pump station features two 200 horsepower vertical turbine pumps with 24-inch discharge discharge heads that pump into a 30-inch HDPE pipe that was installed on James Street during a previous contract in 2019. The photo on the right shows the intake for the pumps that measure about 18 feet. Here's the constructed pumps and discharge system in their shelter. And then the project also includes a 300 kilowatt standby generator that'll run the pumps in the event of a power outage. This is a very clean, sharp looking project. Okay, now we're on to Meet Man Maker. This is something you guys have all probably heard about for the past several years. Well, we're finally able to show some finished project that's constructed to the new standard. We not only have 2 private development projects that are constructing to this standard, but we have 2 City of Kent projects that are very close to completion. The first one is the Meet Man Maker sidewalk / river bend driving range improvements. This project constructed to the new standard from Ethos to Russell Road features a new raised crosswalk, mid-block crossing between the golf course and the driving range, the nice new promenade you see there in the photo, and then it rebuilt a parking lot for the driving range customers. In addition to site furnishings, the Meet Man Maker standard features multiple colors, patterns, and textures incorporated into the concrete flatwork. The landscaping adds attractiveness with trees that will add nice shade to the promenade once mature. The photo on the right is the raised crosswalk mentioned earlier. Okay, the second City of Kent project with the new Meet Me on Meeker standard is Meet Me on Meeker GRE to Russell Road sidewalk improvements. This project connects with the previous project at Russell Road on the west end in Midtown 64, a private development on the east end. It's all fronting the Riverwood Apartments. One of the main features on this project is the constructed new concrete crosswalk across Russell Road. No less important, we had several smaller projects that were constructed in 2020. This is the fuel tank replacement project that eliminated the old vehicle fuel system and replaced with an up-to-date fuel system and above ground tanks. New pumps and a new canopy also were installed. This new facility serves all City of Kent vehicles, so it includes Public Works, Parks, the police department, and any other departments have vehicles that I'm not thinking of. The 2020 sewer CIPP lining project, CIPP stands for Cast in Place Pipe. We've just completed the second one in the last 2 years. This is expected to be an ongoing program to add lining to the old pipe that is at risk of failure. This system adds structural stability to the old pipe and may be near the end of its functional life, adding at least another 50 years of service without doing any excavations in our streets. Though it may seem expensive, this installation is ultimately much more economical than conventional pipe replacement and significantly decreases disruption of traffic and the public in general. Downey Farmstead, we've completed phase 3 this year with more to come. This land will ultimately be a high flow side channel for the Green River that will provide safe passage for salmon during high flow events. A similar project was completed several years ago on the Lieber property. We do several annual maintenance projects. We do annual paint line striping, crack sealing, and plastic markings replacement, but the major ones we do are the annual overlay projects. Our asphalt overlay program is ongoing and making some nice progress. In 2020, we completed overlay and curb ramp replacements in 3 neighborhoods, in addition to curb ramp replacements at 9 locations where the City of Kent crews from the Operations Streets Department were completing grind and inlay projects. upcoming in 2021. We're doing a few fewer locations than 2020. However, we're not doing a whole bunch of just curb replacement locations. We have 7 locations where we're working, and 6 of the locations are doing full grind and inlay, and 2 of the locations feature the addition of traffic calming, similar to the speed hump you see in the lower right photo. Even more unique for this project, we will be incorporating chip sealing into the project on Lake Fenwick Road. At the appropriate locations, this will add new life to the streets for a lot fewer dollars per mile than grind and overlay sites that we have been completing over the past several years. So hopefully it's something that works out well for the city and something that works out well for the public. Another overlay project we have coming up this year is the South 212th Street overlay. It's on the next page, Kim. This project is funded by federal grants, and it will provide grind and overlay on South 212th from East Valley Highway to the concrete intersection that we constructed back in 2018 on 72nd Avenue. In addition to this project, design staff is working on another project on 212th from 72nd Avenue to the western city limits. That project will probably be a 2022 project, is what I understand now, but 212th is going to get shaped up pretty nice here in the next couple of years. Okay, Clark Springs. Got a contractor out doing a Clark Springs generator and electrical upgrades. This work started this spring, and it's provided an updated generator backup and controls to our existing water facility at Clark Springs. That project is over in Maple Valley on our property out there. And here's a big one that's really just getting rolling here in the past couple of weeks. West Hill Reservoir is a new reservoir that will have a capacity of about 5 million gallons and will give Kent residents on West Hill improved fire flow and more storage capacity during the dry summer months when there's a higher demand. The contractor has just completed the 8,000 cubic yard excavation for the tank's 8-foot thick concrete base. Concrete work and site utilities will take place most of the summer, so we'll expect to start seeing the vertical construction of the actual tank itself begin in this fall. Second and James pedestrian crossing, we're going to be adding a new crosswalk with flashing beacons for safe pedestrian passage between Kent Station and the North Park neighborhood. The contract is in the procurement stage right now, with construction expected to proceed later this month. The Lake Fenwick aerator. This project will be kicking off very soon. We have the pre-con scheduled for Monday next week. This project will be upgrading the treatment facilities inside a remodeled building at Lake Fenwick Park and reconstructing the aerator at the bottom of the lake. And we have coming here pretty soon, hasn't bid yet, but it's scheduled to come out, is the 2021 water main replacement. It's replacing 2 sections of outdated water main in downtown Kent on East Sar Street and East Titus Street. In addition, this project will be constructing a new section of water main along the frontage of the new Alexa Gateway project up on Veterans Drive as part of the future West Hill transmission main project. At our Clark Springs watershed property, we have a culvert carrying flow from Rock Creek across Summit Landsbrook Road that is too restrictive during high flow events. As a result, staff from environmental engineering, along with a consultant, are designing a bridge that will be constructed in place of the culverts. The project is scheduled to bid and begin construction this season. However, the majority of the construction is expected to take place in the summer of 2022. My last capital job to talk about is the Washington Avenue pump station. This pump station is early on part of the Signature Point Levee project. This project is scheduled to proceed late 2021. The new pump station will be installed on the east side of West Valley Highway, replacing the existing facility that is on on the west side of West Valley Highway. So that's our capital stuff kind of in the past and looking forward a little bit. So now I want to share a little bit about some of the private development projects currently taking place and the staff that we have looking after them. We have 3 staff members that look after all the private construction in town that takes place in our right-of-way or impacts our city-owned infrastructure, plus 1 staff member that looks after nearly all the private utility work that takes place in town. This is the PSE, Comcast, CenturyLink work that you see those guys working all over town all the time. Dave Devine is the group supervisor. Jay Mounts is our inspector that looks after all that private utility inspection. Josh Harris, a senior construction inspector, and Adam Campbell, an inspector, look after all the private development projects, with Dave actually looking after some of the projects. This is a small group of guys that are involved in a vast amount of work all over the city. Work we are responsible for includes side sewer connections, short plats, residential developments, private commercial construction, and city right-of-way infrastructure work associated with projects contracted out by other municipalities such as King County and Sound Transit, who are in town right now doing projects. So we talked about the new Meet Me on Meeker standard. Ethos, formerly Marquee on Meeker, is the first project that had the pleasure of building to the new standard. The work is turning out great. They are currently in the second phase of their site construction, as you can see.
Councilmember Thomas, your hand is raised. Did you have something?
Yes, actually, it goes back to the other, but it doesn't matter. We don't have to do anything with the slides. So thank you, Madam Chairman, on that, and Madam President. When you were doing the curbs and sidewalks, it brought up something that reminded me of another thing. Wheelchair ramps, for example. How are we doing on those?
We can incorporate a vast number of curb ramp replacements in every project. I know design staff is working on a few other projects that, if Chad is still on board, maybe he can speak to some of those. But
well, I know on the new construction, I understand that. But what about the city itself? How are we doing? Are we to the point where we can say all the corners have ramp accessibility?
Hi, Councilmember Thomas. This is Chad.
Hi,
no,
Chad.
We're not there yet. I wish I could say we were there, but we're not there. Rob Brown's group has put together a plan on how we're going to approach the existing intersections and what we need to do to get them to compliance. We're slowly working through those. And then if we get requests, special requests at certain locations from folks who are using the intersections a lot, we focus on those.
Okay. And can you give me a ballpark percentage of how many are, completed? In the downtown area?
Not offhand, but what I'll tell you is that most intersections have ramps.
Yeah.
One of our issues is that the ramps that were constructed in the 70s and 80s don't necessarily meet the standards that were developed in the 90s. So in a lot of those, we have ramps that technically, a person can get through, but it doesn't meet the standards. So I'll work on getting your percentage, but I'll tell you that it's a relatively low percentage.
Yeah, and that was my second question. Was the follow-up is because it seems like you're redoing some of the old ones. So okay, now I understand why. Okay, thanks, Chad.
Mm-hmm.
So excuse me, to add on to that, the paving and overlay projects, every intersection where they pass an existing curb ramp, that project has to, by federal law, rebuild those curb ramps if they don't already meet the current ADA standards. So with every one of the paving projects that we do, whether part of a capital project or the developer will do as part of a development project, or the utility companies that will do as part of their utility replacement projects, we are getting new ADA compliant curb ramps as part of every one of those projects. So they're happening in a lot of different ways, but we're definitely plugging away at them. But yeah, I'd be curious to get Chad's numbers on those also. So carry on back to the development projects. Midtown 64, This one is also on Meeker, building to the new standard. This project is a wonderful looking project that is very close to completion as well. This, along with Ethos, are great additions to Meeker Street and really great additions to the city. So we're happy to be part of the team on seeing these projects get built. I mentioned Alexan Gateway. That's the project. We're going to have a section of the new water main get installed along their frontage. This is a new condo complex that is being constructed on the property at the intersection of Military and Veterans Drive. There will be 3 new buildings with improvements to their frontage and right away on both Military and Veterans Drive. Then the Lower Russell setback levy. This is a project, a capital project by King County Water and Land Resources Division. Though it's a King County project, the city's environmental staff is deeply involved, and our staff in construction is providing inspection on relocated utilities and new city facilities. So that one, it's going to make a good push this year, but I think it's probably going to be wind up going into construction for another season after this summer. Then my last slide, Federal Way Link extension. Our city of Canton inspectors are obviously not involved with the work you see in that photo, but we're definitely going to be deeply involved in this infrastructure. A lot of new city streets are getting built and unbuilt, and we're going to be deeply involved in that one for a long time. What's neat about this picture is the first girder set for this project in the city. I can't just took place last night. Kelly Peterson shared that photo in the bottom left with me this morning, so we got that incorporated in. But we're fixing to see a lot of changes, and there's already been a lot of changes. They're just about ready to get their permits for the Kent Des Moines station, so we're going to really see a lot of things moving forward. It's going to be extremely busy for a long time to come. So, well, thank you for listening to me. If you guys know me at all, you know I don't like to talk a whole bunch, so I appreciate you hanging in there with me. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Great presentation. It's always so fun to see the pictures and some of the aerial pictures where you actually get to see how the projects really look and compare them. So thank you so much for this update. I am going to start with Councilmember Boyce, followed by Councilmember Fincher.
Thank you, Madam President, and I apologize for being late. And Eric, you might have talked about this here, so don't go into too much detail, but I do have a question around like overlays. So I know some of the intersections, for example, like 256 and 132nd and 116 and 256. I mean, it is a disaster. Like, you got to drive around so you won't do damage to your car, and it had been like that for a while. So, were that part of some of this presentation on how you guys are going to attack some of that theory, or that's something totally different?
I didn't really go into that detail. However, 256, 132nd, I know the intersection you're talking about, and that one is scoped in the 2021 overlay project.
And
So,
what about the 116 and 104? That's worse than the 256 and the 132nd.
Gosh, I don't remember that one specifically. Maybe if Chad chime in again, do you recall that one?
Yeah, 116th and 256 has where we're going in, that we have an overlay on that. 116th and Kent Kangley, the Kent Kangley portion is the state. Then the 116th portion is ours. So we'll take a closer look at our section and see if there's stuff that we can do on that.
Oh, the 116 and 256, I'm talking, that belongs to us though.
That's ours, yes. And that we're working into the project this year.
Okay, because those are really, really bad. I mean,
Yeah,
I go home, I got to drive around, just not even, to avoid the big hole in the road. So,
Yeah, it's a shame to come off that nice asphalt in the 256 project that we did 5 or 6 years ago, and then through that mess in the intersection.
I got it. All right, thanks, team. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Your car can take it, Bill.
No, I can't either. It's too low to the ground.
Councilmember Fincher.
Thank you. I wanted to say, driving by the Meet Me on Meeker project, that whole strip, that sidewalk looks really good out there. And I appreciated seeing not only the benches, but the trash cans. So hopefully people will use those to help keep the litter down. But I really appreciate seeing those, especially with the eateries and the other businesses down there. Good job.
Yeah, thank you. It's really neat to see those projects get built and just the vision of them continue to progress and just change the overall look of that area in town. And hopefully it just continues out there. It's fun to build. I really like that part of construction and bringing new things out and finishing the projects.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you so much for joining us and keeping us up to date. All right, that brings us to the end of our workshop. So we're actually finishing up a little bit early, and that gives all of you council members a little bit of time to take a break in between now and when we come back here at 7 p.m. for the council meeting. So enjoy your little break, and we'll see you back here shortly. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.